guys, so today I'm going to be showing you a super awesome and visual card trick that I'm sure you guys will love. So without further ado, let's get right into the performance for the trick. So for this trick, we can take the deck, give it a few shuffles, just like this. Once we're done shuffling, I'm just going to have the spectator select any card out of the middle of the deck. And once they're done looking at it and remembering it, and I promise I'm not looking at the card either, but once you guys have remembered the card, I tell the spectator to hold their hand palm upwards and place the card in their hand face down. This is only to create sort of an impression of the card on your skin. So if you just hold it here for a little bit, it should work out just fine. So right about there. Okay, so now that the card has made an impression on the spectator's hand, what we're gonna do is lose the card back in the center of the deck. And this trick is actually really interesting because what I'm gonna be doing today is showing you guys a very interesting property about a deck of cards that I'm sure you guys have never actually heard about before. And it's a property in which you actually have cards imitate other cards. So I'll do a little bit of an example here. We'll just use a random card, the King of Hearts, and we'll also use another random card here. We'll use the Nine of Diamonds as well. So you can see that these two cards are obviously not very similar to each other. We have a face card and a number card over here. But if I just line these up in just the right way, just the right spot, right about here, you can actually start to see that 9 sort of impersonates that king. Now, of course, it's not completely perfect. It's not an exact duplication of the card because I only said it's imitating the card, but it's still pretty damn close if you ask me. So the other interesting thing about this principle is that it actually still works when the card is actually face down. So we'll try this now too. If we take the deck here and hover it over this face down card, just get the angle just right, should be good right about here. You can see that it actually imitates the back design of the card as well. So that is super, super interesting to look at. So obviously this is really cool and stuff, but what does it have to do with this trick? Well, the goal of this is I actually wanted to take this king over here and I wanted to try to impersonate your selection on your hand because you left sort of an impression here. So if you could let me borrow your hand for a second, what I'm gonna do is actually take the king here and just kind of hover it right over your hand. And just like that, you can see that it transforms right into your selection, the 10 of spades. And yeah, that is the trick, guys. So I really hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, be sure to stick around for the tutorial. All right, guys, so here's the tutorial for the trick that you just saw. So just a little bit of a disclaimer before we get started. I just want to let you guys know that this trick was pretty difficult to film, and I know it probably didn't look as perfect as it could have. It definitely looks a lot better in person. I'll have to tell you guys this because you really need to rely on some misdirection in order to pull off some moves without it making it look too obvious. So I'm sure a lot of you guys saw what I was doing. That's why you guys are going to go out and perform this in real life. So let's get right into how this trick is done. So this trick is pretty much impromptu. You just need a little bit of a setup, but you can set this up pretty much in front of the spectator's eyes if you want. So the only setup here is you just need to take any soulmate, any pair of soulmates. So I just took the red kings here. Doesn't matter what order they're in. And then you just need to take a random card and place it between them. And then this setup basically goes on top of the deck. So this can be done with a totally borrowed and shuffled deck. You can just cull some cards underneath that you want to set up beforehand, or you can just pull out cards and place them on top. Like, it really doesn't matter. You can set this up in 2 seconds right over here. So once you're in this position, you're pretty much ready to go for the trick. So you can go ahead, shuffle the cards as much as you want to. Just keep those 3 cards on top. And if you want the spectator to shuffle the deck, you can just palm these cards for a minute and then have the spectator shuffle the cards. When you're ready, you can take the cards back and just kind of drop them on the deck. So first, you need the spectator to select any card. So they can pull out any card, it doesn't matter what it is. And you tell them to hold the card on their hand because you want it to make a little bit of an impression on their skin. So once they do this, you're going to take the card back and control it to the bottom any way you like. So I take the card, just give it a little cull right over here, and that will very easily place it on the bottom of the pack, just like this. But you're not done right after this because what you need to do is you also need to take the card and turn it face down like this. So what you're gonna do, called a half pass. So what a half pass is, it means you take your index finger, curl it underneath like this, and you're basically just going to be taking that single card underneath with your fingers and using your index finger to kind of curl underneath and flip it over like this. So you just kind of do this under the cover of the entire deck, and I also like to angle my hand down a little bit. That will just help cover it up. And of course, this is also a move that requires some misdirection. I would just be looking right at the spectator, talking to them during this part. It wouldn't look like I'm doing anything. And I also like to clean it up with a little bit of a twist like this. That will help sort of cover that little move that you just did. So once the card has been flipped over on the bottom of the deck, all you need to do now is you say that you're going to cut to a random card for the example of this really cool property. What you're going to be doing is getting a break on the top 2 cards. So right underneath the top 2 cards. And what you do here is you catch a thumb break instead, and then you're going to double undercut these top 2 cards to the bottom of the deck. And I actually think I did maybe a triple or a quadruple undercut. I switch off from time to time, but just get those 2 cards to the bottom. So now you have the selection, and then you have a king and a random card over here on the bottom. So now what you do is you flip over the top card because it looks like you've just been cutting the deck to a random card. This will be one of the kings. Then what I do is I flip over my hand and I show the 9 of diamonds on the bottom of the deck over here. After I do this, I'm actually going to catch a pinky break on the bottom card, and then I'm going to hold a thumb break just like this. What this will allow me to do is it will very easily allow me to lap this card. So this is what you're going to be doing in the trick. You're going to be essentially pointing at this card, and when they're looking at this card and you're using misdirection, your hand is just going to very casually just come a little bit back towards your body, and you're just going to let this card fall under the table, and you're just going to get rid of this card completely. So this card will fall into your lap as you point at this card. So right there, boom, you just let go with your thumb. So now when you hover the deck over the card and you flip your wrist over, now you'll show that the king has now started to impersonate the other king. So at this point, you're going to get in the exact same position again. So I get a pinky break and then a thumb break on the bottom card once more. And now you're going to do the exact same action, but this time you have a little bit more of a justification because you're actually going to be reaching over with your left hand to flip over the king. So what I do is I reach over and I just kind of make sure to place my hand directly in front of the deck. This will help cover the part when you bring your hand back, because now you're actually going to drop this card once more again into your lap. So you reach over, you flip the card over, and then boom, you drop the card off. So now I'm exposing this face down card, which is actually their selection. So what I do is hover the card over like this, and then boom, it changes into a face down card, which is pretty cool. At this point, I directly get into another pinky break position and I place the card into a gambler's cop. This means I'm placing it just back into my hand and it's just going to go directly curled into my palm over here. From the front view, this is completely invisible and I'm holding the rest of the deck like this. What I do now is I instantly drop my hand below the table and then I'm going to spread the cards out on the table. Afterwards, I will pick up the king and turn it face up. What I'll do now is load this selection directly underneath the king. And it's very simple to do this. You just want to take the card, place it like this in your hand. Once you're in this position, I grab the card with my fingers and thumb on the front and back, and then I just bring my hand slowly up until those cards are aligned, and then I can bring it back and just give it a little squeeze. So now I actually have a double here, but I'm just going to be kind of twirling it around like this, and how I did this twirl is I place it on my thumb here, then I can take my thumb and index finger and I just kind of twirl the card around on my thumb over here, and I'm just keeping these 2 cards together. So I do this because it sort of makes it look like a single card. Then I just give it a little flick here, and I hold it in this position here just because it looks like this is a single card. You don't want to hold it like this the entire time because this is very obvious that you're not holding a single card. You would never hold a single card in this fashion. You would hold it in this fashion or maybe this fashion over here. So either way is fine. What you're gonna do is turn both cards over, and then you're just going to kind of lift up on one card and get your break ready. And now you're gonna ask the spectator to hold out their hand, and this is the misdirection right here. So you ask them to hold out their hand just closer to you, and you can bring it forward, whatever you wanna do. You're gonna use that as misdirection to, once again, lap this card. So you're going to drop, boom, that card off. It's gonna go below the table, not in front like it just did. It's gonna go below the table, they won't see it. And then you bring your hand immediately back over and you hover it, and it looks like nothing has happened, and it just looks like the card just completely morphs into their selection. And that is the end of the trick right there. So you might be wondering, how do I clean up these cards that might be in my lap or on the floor? There are 2 things that I actually like to do at this point. So one thing that you can do is just take the entire deck and place it in your lap as they're examining the card. And then when they're done, then you can bring out everything and you can add on those cards that were in your lap. Another thing that you can do, this is probably not recommended, but what you can do is, so you can sort of be messy on purpose. So what you can do is as you're squaring up the cards, you can sort of accidentally drop some cards on the floor or in your lap. And then you can go like, oh shoot, I've got to pick those up. But yeah, you can examine these. And then as you're picking those up, then you can just clean up everything because there'll just be a bunch of cards on the floor now. So they won't be able to tell which ones were the ones that you used before. But yeah, that is the trick right there. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. And if you did, be sure to like the video and see you guys next time. Bye.